Hey guys, it's Sarah. I'm here today to do the time and place tag, which was started by Jen Campbell. And if you don't know the idea of this tag, it's basically that you pick several books that you associate with a certain time or place in your life. I thought it was a great idea and, wanted to do it myself. So here we go. First of all, I have Meet Molly. This is part of the American Girl collection of books, and I was super into American Girl when I was growing up. I have like 7, 8 dolls. I have quite a few dolls. I got a doll for Christmas like every year when I was little. Very spoiled child. um, but anyways, they always came with the meet the doll book, and I really love these. I always associate these with when I was a very slow reader. I ended up taking special reading classes in 2nd grade because I still couldn't read very well, and so these were really easy, kind of get me reading, get me into the books. And so I remember these being the first books that I really, really liked, that I read myself. My mom read me other books, but these were books that I could read myself, and I just loved, and I really liked Molly. I don't know if I would say she's my favorite. I really like Felicity as well, and Addie, and I could go on. Kirsten, I love Kirsten. I loved them all. So, yeah, these books are definitely what I associate with childhood and my first great reading moments in my life. The next book is The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. This is part of his Dark Materials collection, and the reason I chose, this is actually the second book, the reason I chose this one was because I distinctly remember 4th or 5th grade, we had to do a report on it, and my report ended up being a book report, and then I did a cereal box, and you had to decorate the cereal box in the book itself. And so I remember tracing and coloring and everything. It wasn't this cover, it was a different cover. The original cover with the two kids on it. Yeah, I just remember that and this book and reading this. I read this series along with the audiobooks because, like I said, when I was younger, I wasn't the best reader and I wasn't the fastest reader, and so for a lot of school books that I had to read, I would end up getting the audiobooks and reading them. I would have read along in the book, and that would just help me focus on the book, and it would keep me reading for longer. I just remember reading this book and getting really into it and being a perfectionist about that book report and about that cereal box that I made. So, good times. The next book that I'm going to talk about is A Rose from Melinda by Lurleen McDaniel. This is not an author that I read a whole lot of. I think this is probably the only book that I own, and I didn't own a lot of books as a child. I did own books, but not I didn't have a big collection of books. We went to the library a lot, and my mom wasn't really into buying us books. So the reason I bought this was because once a year as a child I had to go downstate to a hospital and have checkups done, and we were on our annual trip, and I got down there and I didn't have a book to read, and so we were at the bookstore and I thought I'd pick something up for the ride home, and I think this was my first book that I sat and read the entire thing in one sitting, and just I remember distinctly driving home and getting to the end and crying silently in the back seat as my parents were just driving, and I remember getting to the end and they were both like, "Are you okay back there?" And I was just just, I mean, it was pretty depressing book. It's about this girl that she's a dancer and she ends up getting cancer. Yeah, it's just like a nice love story for teenagers, and it's written in like notes and emails and IM correspondence and stuff. Like, kind of funny. Back in the day, that would have been probably 2001. I think I was still in elementary school when I first read this. I just found it has the sticker. We used to get stickers all the time when I'd go for my checkups. You quack me up. That's my favorite thing. I don't know why I like these stickers so much, but they're goofy. As a kid, I loved it. Anyways, next book is Cry the Beloved Country by Ellen Paton, and I remember reading this book while doing summer intensive for my ballet company and learning a ballet and like in between rehearsals and napping and talking with my friends trying to read this book. Yeah, I have distinct memories of like people running around in ballet shoes around me and like trying to read this and get into this book and finish it and write notes and do schoolwork. It just reminds me of ballet. I love ballet. So good memories of being with friends and being in the studio. That was my life for 14 years, 15 years. The next book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I read this one summer. I started reading it in, I want to say the summer after 10th grade, and I was a big summer of like hanging out with my friends, and I distinctly remember starting this that summer and really like trying to power through. I got halfway through this book and I ended up putting it down, um, and finishing it later on. I finished it like my senior year, so it was much later. But I just associate this book and that summer and like laying on the beach next to my friends and trying to whip this out as much as I could and try to read it and try to focus on it and get into her writing style, but I just could not. And I'd love to sit down and read this book again and kind of get a different feel of this book and read it all the way through and kind of like one section of time and not in two, because I ended up really loving the second part of this book, and I don't know if it's because I was older or if it's just because I like the second half better, of like more happened in the second half. I don't know, but this book definitely reminds me of that summer and turning 16, like I said, laying on the beach with my friends and just all the fun that I had that summer. And alright, this next book, because I couldn't leave off Harry Potter's, and I remember, what age I was when that came out, and I remember waiting in line at the movie theater for them to come out and going to midnight showings and, reading the books in class. So yeah, I just have memories like that. But this one, the fifth one, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, is one that I remember reading on my way down to Chicago to go see Wicked. I think it was a little bit after this had come out. But I was reading this book, and I remember being in the car. My grandma was driving, and my mom was in the passenger seat, and we were going, like I said, on our way to see Wicked. So I don't know how this happened, but I'm in the back, and I remember my grandma asking me, "Oh, what are you reading?" And my dad's mom is very conservative, which is fine. I remember her distinctly asking, like, "Oh, Harry Potter, isn't that about witches and witchcraft?" And I'm like, "Yes, but it's, not just about witches and witchcraft." I don't know, I just remember that moment. I remember being on our way to go see Wicked, which is about witches, and my grandma being like, "Why are you reading this book about witchcraft?" I don't know. And it always reminds me of that car ride and this book, and my mom being like, "It's more about good and evil," trying to explain to her. That was a great trip. And yeah, we met my cousins there. It was really fun. And I love Chicago and Harry Potter. And so, what better way to associate a book than a good trip with a musical involved? Alright. Oh gosh, this is the last book I chose. I probably shouldn't have ended with this book. So the next book is, I should be ashamed, but I'm really not going to be ashamed that I read this because so many people read it. I was not the only one, and I was not the only one that liked them when I read them. And, great writing is great writing, but sometimes you just have like a good story, like a captivating story, maybe not like a really great story, but a captivating story that holds your attention and you read it really quickly. And yeah, what I'm talking about is Twilight, and specifically Twilight Eclipse, because um, I had jaw surgery when I was 18, jaw slash facial surgery. I remember distinctly having a conversation. I was in a hospital bed, having a conversation with one of the nurses about these books and how much we loved these books and what was going to happen, and that they were like becoming movies and what we thought of the movies and all that happens in the books. And I just remember having this huge conversation with this like really great nurse about these, and I was like super excited to read them and really into them, and I was like, oh, I'll read them again and again. Like, I love this book, and I couldn't talk, so I had to like write down everything that I was saying and being like, yeah, it's so great. But yeah, that's what I remember about this book, is being in the hospital and reading this, and yeah, saying that I would love this book forever. I don't anymore. That's alright though. We all move on. We all, our reading tastes evolve. And if you like this still and you like them at one point, that's not a bad thing. Like, don't be ashamed of what you read. Don't be ashamed of what you like. So, yeah. Like what you like. Don't be sorry about it. Alright. I think that's it, guys. I think we're done. So, yeah. Peace out. Bye, guys.